Thanks for tuning in to another show in the Next Reel family of film podcasts.
Want to skip those ads and get early access?
Become a member at truestory.fm/join and discover all the other great perks that come with it.
Welcome to The Film Board. I'm Pete Wright. Each month we take on one new release. We put it on the table to figure out what it's doing and why it matters. Spoilers ahead.
Welcome to the review chamber. I am your procedural facilitator, Pete Wright, and I will be monitoring tone, aggression, and general sense of spirit throughout this hearing. This session concerns the case of Mercy, starring Chris Pratt, in a chair, in an experiment in automated justice, total surveillance, and a study in what happens when your worst day becomes a searchable database. Joining me as counsel for the prosecution are Andy Nelson, Tommy Metz III, and Steve Sarmento. Listeners, welcome. The timer starts now.
Hello, Film Board. I'm Pete Wright, and it's Andy and Tommy and Steve, and I'm so glad that we're here to talk about Mercy. Maybe. This is the new Chris Pratt movie that I have to be honest with you, I didn't know existed until Andy texted me and said, you know, you're going to miss a month. We should do Mercy. Let's do a bonus. And so we're here talking about Mercy because otherwise we would skip a month. I just want the record to show, as long as we're using court metaphors, that Andy owns Mercy. In the legacy of this show, all the jokes will come back to Andy for the next decade.
I just want to say that this is what the Film Board is founded upon. I just want to make sure that we're getting back into the sorts of dreck that make up so many of our conversations on this show.
Thank you, Andy. You are, in fact, doing the Lord's work.
No, it's the number one movie this weekend. What are you talking about? We picked the top movie, box office movie this weekend.
Didn't it push Avatar out of number one spot?
It pushed Avatar out of number one spot because
Did it really?
nobody
Wow.
can get out. Nobody can get out to see movies because they're frozen in their rooms.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Well, okay. All right. Then I think we should start talking about this movie. We should litigate the movie, if you don't mind my saying. Let's start with this. And Andy, I'm going to give it to you first because I also did read your Letterboxd review before the movie. So I would love it if you would describe the movie that Mercy thinks it is and the movie that maybe it actually becomes.
Yeah, that's a good question because the movie, I think, wants to be a justice system as software thriller. You know, we've got a 90-minute trial that is kind of like this speed run of how they've rebuilt the legal system in LA, where your guilt is a live metric that they're tracking. And in an LA that I don't know if I ever fully understood, but there's a reform of some sort at work because there's red zones everywhere and riots, and LA is just a problem. On top of that, we have essentially a detective story of Chris Pratt playing Chris, who is trying to solve the case of his own murder. It's a screenlife story, which is kind of interesting in the way that they use it. And I think what they were trying to do is give I'm not sure, but I think they were trying to give a warning about giving systems a godlike access to things like our rights. And but I don't think it ever gets there because I don't think the movie itself can control what it's actually implying. Does that help in some capacity?
Oh, that's pretty good, Andy. And I think we're going to come back around on that. Tom, your opening thoughts.
It is funny that you said you didn't know what this movie was, because when I've ever brought up the fact that I was seeing it, everyone was like, what? Like, no one has heard of this movie. It's so weird that no one has heard of this movie. And whenever I just saw one ad for it and one poster, and it looks like a fake movie that exists in the background of a real movie. Like the poster that's by my house has Chris Pratt like walking around in a bulletproof vest with a shotgun, an image that is not in the movie at all. They just threw it from other movies. It's a January release. This is something that it was not on my radar. I'm a big fan of screenlife movies, but this was not something that I probably would have seen in the theater had we not done this.
It reminded me of a lot. I guess it was late 90s when there was a lot of Philip K. Dick adaptations like Paycheck, where there's a very interesting concept and it may be best left on the page rather than the screen because there are some things that just don't translate well. And I think there's a lot of interesting ideas, and maybe it was swinging for what Andy was describing. I don't know if that's the case because it really felt a lot pulpier than that. It felt like it was an interesting idea of let's put this guy on trial and he's got 90 minutes and then we'll just figure out the rest along the way. And so these types of things appeal to me because there's some interesting ideas there. They're never fully fleshed out. Things fall apart, but I'm always intrigued by the proposition of the world that they're presenting and what's going on. And it fails in so many ways, but there's still bits and pieces there that I enjoy, and I latch onto those ideas of the speculative fiction of what would America be like if. And I don't know if it was a critique of anything. I don't know if it wanted us to ask anything or if it just wanted us to be entertained of here's a interesting future and let's just see what things would be like. And so, yeah, I enjoyed bits and pieces. I think I enjoyed it more than some of what I'm hearing from the rest of you, but I agree. It's a very flawed movie and I'm surprised it's in theaters because it's Amazon. I figured this was something that was probably going to go straight to Prime. And then for whatever reason, I guess they decided, let's throw it into theaters.
This was made for IMAX. It was actually like IMAX 3D. Yeah. So it was intended for big.
No.
From the start.
Okay.
And for the record, I have not said anything about what I felt about the movie yet.
Okay.
Okay. Do you want to insert that here, or are we? Or do you want to hold your cards closer to your chest?
It's completely up to you. I didn't know. I'm always walking a tightrope about opening thoughts.
Yeah,
because I know that
even though that's
segment.
your segment.
It's completely my segment. Yeah. I'll go ahead just to make this fun. I was expecting nothing from this movie. I am a huge Screenlife fan, as I said. I love the Unfriended series. I love both Searching and Missing. I thought this movie was going to be a disaster, and I had so much fun. I really enjoyed this movie. I think its biggest problem is it's coming out right now, so we're expecting it to say something smart about AI because AI within the last couple years has taken over the culture. If it was like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, you could just sort of see it as like a cheap Paul Verhoeven kind of knockoff and take some satire as you want. Otherwise, one other thing about this movie is I went in bargain basement. I was not going to see it in IMAX. Are you insane? And I wasn't going to pay for 3D. Are you insane? My theater messed up and they showed it in 3D. We all had to like run out. There were 2 people in the theater. We ran out and we're like, is this supposed to be in 3D? They're like, oh, I don't know. Here's glasses. So we ran in. So we ended up watching it in 3D. And that I think made an enormous difference. Because it made it a ride. It made it a video game that you were in.
Literally in the chair,
yeah. And it was I really, really liked it.
Do you think that his
really
chair...
incredible.
Here's just a side question. Do you think his chair was D-Box equipped? Because I did notice sometimes when the screens like zipped past him, that his hair waved.
His
like
hair
there's
would go.
wind.
That was
I thought it was full 4DX in the courtroom. I really did. It's like, this is your last ride. You know you're going to die. We're going to give you a trip on the way out. That is fantastic. I actually did see it in D-Box. And because I always do now. That's just, I don't like myself as a result of it, but I do it anyway. And I was really surprised at how much D-Box there is going on in this movie. It felt like for a guy in a chair movie. Yeah. No, those screens cause the chair to swing around a lot. And let alone the fact that when she gets on the police hovercraft motorcycle, man, you're flying around all the time. So it was actually really pretty active. It was more active than I expected it to be. So anyway, I think there is a really strong core idea in this movie. And This whole idea of having an automated justice system as a pressure cooker thriller, as putting kind of a kind face in front of an algorithm that makes you think you're really building a relationship with someone, but are you really? I think that is a fascinating thing to explore in movies right now. The movie, I think, feels extremely impressed with its concept. And I did not walk away feeling that it was as capable as it was impressed in executing it. It felt like it wandered. The experience quickly moved from super intriguing to more eye-rolling than I wanted it to be. And we're going to talk about the parade of coincidences that I just really struggle with. And I think when we're talking about how awesome the throwback is to the early Paul Verhoeven, I feel like this movie may be dating itself with its exuberance for that class of film. For me, it just felt, I rolled my eyes too much. I hurt walking out of the movie. It was too much. Okay.
Was the D-box rolling your eyes? Are you sure you were in control of that?
D-box. I think that we talk about major themes going on in this movie. We've got the automated certainty, right? He's presumed really guilty, but he has the ability, the agency, when he's in the chair, to review everything that has been recorded ever and ever throughout his jurisdiction and history. And I thought that was fascinating, right? That surveillance is normal life. That, in the screen life space, is the novelty, I think, in this movie. And I'd love to hear how you guys felt that angle worked, that surveillance is normal life and the agency of being able to interact with it as the trick to make this a screen life movie. How did it work for you, specifically this one? Steve, you want to go first?
With anything like this, yes, we all have cameras, everything's recorded, but there were so many times where I thought there wouldn't be footage of this. I'm struggling on that moment of, would somebody really be having a camera to capture this exact moment? But I felt like it was an interesting commentary in it, particularly as a parent. The whole discovery of my daughter's got a secret Instagram, which should not be a surprise.
Not a surprise.
But it brought up the idea of, it's powerful for him to be able to review all of these things if you assume he's going to die. Otherwise, if he walks out of there having dug through his deceased wife's stuff, his kid's stuff, everything else, and being
private
able to
financial
walk out,
records.
Yes, everything of like, I'm going to now walk out on the street of, I saw all this stuff so I can prove myself innocent. I thought, okay, that's too big of it. We don't have time. We don't have time because we're going to simplify that. But it was an interesting idea. And I thought maybe, if anything, it was trying to maybe get into that area of, is all of this creating separation among people, or do we really know each other? Although we can see everything, do we really, really know each other? So it's fascinating, but it's a genre that I think it still struggles and grapples with. We need to get information to an audience, and we've tied our hands with this, so we can't be omniscient. We're tied to this, and it puts some challenges in the storytelling that you just have to let it go and say, okay, there's no logical reason for this, but I'll go along with it.
But I mean, I think the thing that I find frustrating about that is that it ties into the entire premise of the story, which is this legal story, and suddenly now we're in this world where Mercy can access proprietary invoices if it wants, and it can do these. I mean, I actually quite enjoyed the look of it, but like reconstructing these scenes from all this footage, and it creates this world where it's like, are there limits to this system? And
right.
If there are none, does it end up being believable? And for something that I think that, I don't know, I appreciate that you're reading it as more of pulpy, because I wasn't, and maybe a more pulpy read helps, but I didn't. I thought it was trying to just kind of create this system, and I'm like, none of this is believable. It's creating this world where we've got mandatory cloud access to civil rights. Like, everybody has to have a phone that, like, everything that they own is accessible to the cloud, which is crazy, which also interestingly creates a off-grid system, right? Because now we have these people who are buying burner phones, and that in the end also is revealing the futility of this system that they have now created, because it's creating more crime. And it's also, it doesn't really get into it in this story, but inevitably it has to get into classism, because certain classes are going to be able to access these burner phones more easily. And so I think that I think it's in some way, it's because of all this, it's confusing having more data with actually having more justice. And I don't think that they're creating a story that ends up making sense. It's like, I think that's why I find it so frustrating, because like it's a fascinating world where Big Brother is like literally accessing everything, but I don't think that they figured out how to actually tell it the right way.
Well, no, if the original question was, how does the screen life work? Does it work with the delivery of the information? The question for me, I sort of, when I understood exactly what was going to be happening, I did ask myself, what if Minority Report was just him with the gloves throwing things around? Would you want to watch a whole movie of just that? And the answer for me is yes, because that was my favorite part of that movie. And so I was just like, look at that, woo-wee. Like I was just having a ball with it.
I am
really
shook by
didn't
this
stop.
part of you. I don't think I ever would have expected this. Knowing how you genuinely feel about AI, what is happening right now?
Because I didn't take it as an argument about anything. I think the fact that I walked into it as, with all the things that I said, Chris Pratt and January release, I think it didn't even occur to me to think, and I'm not saying that you guys, I'm underthinking it, I think, but it didn't occur to me to really try to manage these kind of theoretical or certainly logistical or ethical questions. I knew I'd get a ickle that I wanted, because I was just having too much fun. I mean, I think they set up a kind of a cool situation of, it was dead to rights. He did it. I mean, it was very convincing that he was guilty, and then to unravel that was a fun ride that I thought was very sort of noirish in a way, like those noirs where someone wakes up and they can't remember anything because they had a blow on the head. It's one of those. It's like a locked room.
You mean
mystery.
when he literally woke up in this movie?
And he did have a blow on the head.
Yeah. He had a blow on the head.
Yeah.
It's like this movie and others is what you're saying. I think the what's movies right now, I think you're catching me in a sort of a 36-hour window of seeing this movie, The Rip, and just watching the latest season of The Pit. And these do the same thing with different degrees of success. The Pit is a medical drama, and sometimes I, in the audience, don't know what's going on. And so characters have to explain to each other what they both should know because they're all doctors. But they're explaining it as if one doctor knows a thing and the other does not know a thing. I'm okay with that.
That's what makes the fact that it's a learning hospital so key.
Yes.
The students get to be the audience surrogate.
100%. That's what makes that sort of the peak of doing it well, giving me an exposition dump that I can kind of get lost in the world, even though maybe as a student even, you should have probably studied what they're telling you about right now. Anyhow, then I watched The Rip. The Rip is an objectively terrible movie because it just screams at me all the time. Do you see we're doing crime right now? We're doing crime. There's crime right now. It's happening. You're watching crime. Constantly explaining to each other, to the audience. It is so obviously Netflix's wave of movies reminding you what we do because we know you're on your phone, that it makes it impossible to watch. It's a movie that absolutely does not trust me in the audience. I think this movie has a leg up on The Rip, and because it has an excuse, it has a valve. It releases pressure by way of all of these screens, and it still trips over its own shoelaces left and right because the screens only yield like dumb coincidence, impossible coincidence. So it can describe to me what's happening, but it levels up. It's like they were just, I don't know what they were doing, but I have these images of just fritzed out mice writing the screenplay in a writing room, and they just have written themselves into a corner, and they're like, what would be fun is if we could make him an alcoholic and back him into a corner and really make this, it'll be impossible. And let's just see what happens. And then they wrote that and they realized we're now in an impossible situation. We don't know how to get out of it. So somebody get the magic 8-ball, right? It's just, it seems incoherently connected coincidences that lead to the unraveling of this movie. And that made it wobble between like super serious thriller and parody, because the staging tries so hard to be immersive that it loses its own credibility for me. Maybe I'm being a bit too harsh, but I think there's some struggles there. Steve, you're nodding your head.
No, I agree. This one I'm really on the fence. I don't know that I had as much fun as Tommy, but I don't think I was as frustrated as Andy. I mean, there's again, as you said, the wind, his hair, and I thought, oh, well, because that's why the room has to be so big, because there's all that equipment we can't see that's gonna, generate heat when there's fire and all that. Because I thought, why does he need to be in this big of a room if it's just him and the AI? It could be him in front of a laptop, but then we need all the screens and things to come up.
Because it's also a holodeck.
Right. Yes, exactly. But it does trip over in its shoelaces in trying to get to resolving the story in a way. And I think that's the problem. Is it started off as one movie and it turned into something else by the end, because that's a resolution they knew they could get to, or they wanted, or we know how to write that type of ending. We don't know how to answer the propositions we're setting up at the beginning, so we'll just throw in some coincidences to pivot this into something that's familiar. It's going to follow some familiar tropes to people that will give them a satisfactory ending to this. And I wish it had done something as innovative as the proposition there of, we're going to put somebody in a box and really jam them in a corner, and this may not have a happy ending. This is there. It's a desolate world out there. It is dark. And so do we need to have a happy resolution of this? I don't know. And I probably would have enjoyed that a little bit more, but it played to what it is, which is, again, a pulpy B speculative sci-fi type of thing that has its weak spots. But yeah, just the coincidences do sort of stick out like sore thumbs.
What are some of these coincidences? I'm not saying that there aren't, but what are some of the ones that felt the most glaring to you, just to put me back on?
My biggest one is the fact that Rob is hiding in the basement for a day and a half, 2 days. And like, what was his plan? Like the fact that he was relying on Nicole to discover Chris's alcohol stash and have Chris come home so that he could then make it look like Chris did it. Like I don't understand where that how in God's name was he planning on actually making it look like Chris did it? I'm going to hide it in the basement until the perfect moment. Like it's there's nothing about that makes any sense.
A whole weekend.
Yeah.
A whole weekend.
Like he missed his work on Monday and nobody's just like, oh, he just didn't even call in. Who knows?
He just hung out in the
Andy,
basement.
you're forgetting the most important point. He was hanging out like this. Supposedly, he's been planning this exact thing since his brother was sent to the Mercy program.
Yeah.
Like, this is a 2-year thing that he's been working on? And it ended with, I'm going to hang out in the basement for 2 days?
And Mercy enhances that video footage and sees a hand, like puts the brackets around the hand, reaching for the doorknob. One, why is he such an idiot to be there up at the top of the steps, right behind the door, right when the daughter is walking around the house with her camera? And two, and then Mercy is just like, oh, it just could have been a shadow. And I'm like, you just bracketed a hand at the doorknob.
No. We're not recording this. The 3D was really good.
But it's Tommy, to your defense, it speaks to when you get swept up in it, the logic will, you'll buy into it and you suspend your disbelief and you go with it. And I think that's the thing is you either buy into it, as a whole and you go along for the ride, as you said, or you're going to step back and analyze this and say, if you're trying to make a serious comment about something, I'm going to look at all the pieces of your argument and it's going to fall apart. And I think that's sort of the end of the spectrum Andy's at of you're trying to make a case about AI in this world and I'm going to analyze your argument and it's falling apart. Whereas you went in and ride and said, sure, whatever, take me away and I'll ride the roller coaster. Yeah.
Well, and my wife and I even talked about that very point after we watched it, because we're like, well, it was definitely not for us. But like, she's just like, oh, my dad would love this movie. And we're like, there are people who are going to love this movie. And it's like, it's one of these movies that it's like, yeah, you could call it just your standard average popcorn flick that a lot of people are probably just going to go out and enjoy. But then I was like, is that a good thing? Or is it potentially dangerous to have this story about what it's saying about AI that becomes just kind of a casual popcorny sort of movie? And I don't know. I guess because I still haven't figured out what they're actually trying to say about the usage of AI in the film. I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing.
I'm going to say, I don't know if they're trying to say anything about AI. I think it's just strictly a storytelling mechanism they used in place of something else to tell a story about a guy who prioritized work over his family. And I'd say that AI is not the focus of the story. It's his journey of, I'm a horrible husband. I, haven't dealt with my, partner's death and all of that. And to me, that's really the story. And the AI is just the thing of the moment that they slap on to tell the story. And 10 years ago, or 20 years ago, it might have been cell phones. It could have been something else. It's just put in technology du jour in there. But basically it's hardworking cop, ignores his family, wife cheats on him, all of that. And I think it's just window dressing, really.
But when the movie Cellular came out, I don't think we were having ethical conversations about like how cell phones are getting used these days. Whereas AI has created constant conversation in every aspect of our lives about how it's being used. Is it being used well? It's destroying the environment. Like there's so many conversations about AI right now. And I don't know. I guess that leads me to this question about like, I just don't know. I don't know if it's a good way to tell a story about AI that's just kind of so casual B movie.
Oh yeah. I don't know that it's responsible to do that, but I think that was the motive of what's the thing we can slap onto this. And I don't think there were concerns about, let's think about the ethics of all the packaging that comes with using AI in your story and what that's going to bring to that. And that's the blind spot. And I think that's where people are going to really take issue or have problems with this film.
Not to hijack all this, Pete, but I just have a question. Like, how did you all read what it's saying about AI and its usage in this film?
I want Tom to go first.
I think it hinted at a stance at times, but it never really, I mean, at the very end, that idea of, oh, Chris or Raven, whatever your video game name was, what have we done? And everything's infallible, even computers. And that felt very slapped on. I don't think I really believe in what Steve is saying, that it was just sort of a MacGuffin. It was the way to justify all of these screen life effects that this guy, while he didn't direct Unfriended, he didn't direct Searching or Missing, he's had a huge hand in all of these. And he's been sort of really exploring different ways to do it.
You're talking about Timur Bekmambetov, the director.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. And sometimes he reaches too far in all of those movies and it doesn't make sense. This time he took off the guardrails. He said, I can film whatever I want as long as it's makes a teeny bit of sense that there would be a camera there, as long as there's a situation where there are cameras everywhere, and then just runs with it. I think, again, as I said in my opening, I think one of the biggest problems for this movie is that it's coming out right now. Everything is just too turbocharged and so lightning hot about this that I think it's impossible not to, well, clearly it's very possible to watch this movie without bringing all of that baggage and seeing it, and just seeing it as it is. But I really don't think it's trying to or if it is completely unclear. Because there's no like, boo, like there's no like, Minority Report was very clear in that this is a corruptible system. And so if it's a corruptible system, we have to throw it out. Like they're not going to use it anymore because the Minority Report existed. This, we don't know. It sounds like they just have to like clean up the lobby.
Yeah.
It's a little unclear what's going to happen with the future of Mercy.
I'm really confused because I think we all saw a different movie, or maybe I saw the same movie Andy did, but I would have expected you, Tom, to be just like screaming from the mountaintops after this movie. I think I'm down with the irresponsible presentation of AI in this movie. The whole point of this movie is, and the threat of this movie is that AI is, it's impossible to get a truly just outcome using AI because it is fallible. And the fact is, the threat of the movie is that he is going to be unable to prove his case unless the AI starts to break, unless it starts to hallucinate. That's what's happening at the end of the movie. The judge, Rebecca Ferguson, Judge Maddox, starts to hallucinate and let go of controls, which is exactly what happens with AI. And it is a threat to our systems. And it is corruptible. It is fallible. It should be on lock. It should not be used for this. It is so much. I think Minority Report kept its arm's length from these concepts because they had the fake trope of the three precogs, right? That the precogs were the AI, but they were also impossible. The precogs are impossible to have. AI is here. Judge Maddox is right here. And I guarantee you there are people in law enforcement who would love to see this happen right now, who would love to see this surveillance state enact, who would love to see us be able to enact justice quickly with authority and move on to clear backlogs of cases and all of the arguments that they can make. That's what this movie is about. And if we watch it and internalize it and miss that point, we're screwed, y'all. Like that's bad news. I just really feel strongly about that point.
But I don't know if it's even even if it's making that point. Like, that's what I don't get about this movie. Like, I feel like that's what it sets up. Like,
yes.
AI is bad and all this stuff. But then by the time we get to the end, we're like, no, it's actually humans that are bad. They're the ones that are hiding all this information. And if you look, AI actually helped you and helped get you through all of this. And so I'm like, is it pro-institution? Like, where are we by the time we get to this end of the movie?
I know. It's exactly it. I think it is. I think the end of the movie is... I think it comes back around to, hey, you're right, Tom's right. We just need to clean up the lobby and she's going to be fine, right? Like Judge Maddox will just reboot and we'll start again. I didn't get any position statement on that the movie was trying to say, hey, we have a take on AI, but we are presenting you with a universe in which real people right now would love to implement in the real world. This is not a documentary, but it is an ideology.
Well, and as we've seen from films like Fight Club and others, like there will be people out there who view this as, oh, this is the next step. Let's work on making this.
I think the piece sort of that has come up as you've talked about this, Pete, is the AI hallucinates, but I think if we set aside the AI, there's a part in the movie where basically she says, like, if you stay in that chair, this is the problem, but he needs to continue to access this information. The underlying proposition there is basically whether or not the AI is good or bad, he's able to resolve things due to an extreme surveillance state. And that is just not up for debate, whether the AI is good or bad, but basically whether the AI helps him or not, it's because he has access to everybody's cameras and everything else. That is the only way that justice can happen, is if the police have the ability to see and know everything. And to me, that's far scarier than the AI piece.
That's the ideology.
Well, that's even if we're calling justice.
Yeah. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if this system is actually a fair system. It's designed to execute incredibly quickly, but I I never saw it as actually adjudicating fairly. I mean, here we've created a system where you're putting these people, like the first guy who ended up being Rob's brother, like he clearly isn't somebody who would know how to defend himself. And even with 90 minutes on the clock, he's going to have no clue what to do. So you pull out lawyers out of this system and rely on self-defense for all of this. And then you give them a 90-minute ticking clock constantly, like in your field of vision with a sound effect, like tick, tick. And I swear it probably gets louder over the course of the 90 seconds.
Just like it did for Jack Bauer. That clock gets louder and louder.
Exactly. So
but this was the thing, Andy, to that point, the very first case that we hear about in the third act of the movie of putting the brother to death demonstrated that mercy was corruptible by people, right?
Yeah.
It made the counter case at the very beginning of the movie. Like, that is an ideology. That's a perspective.
It is. And they're cherry picking cases, right? Well, and first of all, I mean, it's like 2 years since Mercy's been in and only 18, now 19 cases. But I'm assuming it must just be death row cases. But still, I'm like, this is LA and that's all
19 cases in 2 years. It's only 90 minutes a case.
I know. Yeah. Well, and how many Mercies can be running at one point? Like they could have 20 of these rooms running 24 hours a day. I mean, they could be killing people left and right, which seemed like what the entire point was. Like, I don't know why they're going so slow with this thing.
Well, not enough water.
That's right. And they need all those wind machines. They have to rent them from the Hollywood studios.
You guys should see Lake Powell by the time this movie starts.
But they're cherry picking cases that they expect to win. So they're engineering the kills, essentially. Like that's what they've created with the system, which I think goes right to your point, Steve, of like, this is a terrifying state that has created this system that is, it's I think that it's frightening what they're trying to say with that.
I have to admit, I was confused by all of the wind that the digital screens were causing. But I do think that there might have been some cool stuff going on here. It was fun to watch for a lot of it. How did you guys think the actual world worked for you?
One of the things that I'm slightly interested in about this movie is with searching and missing, there's always another story being told. That if you pause screens and stuff, like in searching, I think there's a UFO sighting that you learn more and more, that there's these stories within stories with this huge amount of text and information that you're getting. So he's not even just sort of like taking it easy. It's not like just a bunch of random numbers and stuff. He's using it to really tell different stories and have fun with it. So I enjoy that a lot. It's very effective for me. I don't think it's great cinema, and it's not what I usually go to the movies for, but if I want that kind of a ride and I want that kind of experience, then I think it's really well done. And with the 3D, when that house explodes and all of a sudden the fire is all around him, it felt like the fire was all around me. It was very, very immersive, extremely immersive in a way that was really thrilling.
That's awesome. I love that. I love that.
I know.
I worry at times that the film confused sensory noise with stakes, right? There is a certain sort of virtual reality kind of hysteria that goes on in certain periods of the movie, especially after he does his, he does with his neck essentially what Henry Cavill does in the Mission Impossible movie, where he cocks his arms. That's what he does. He goes, oh, neck cock. And then he goes into research porn mode. And his little fingers on his little touchpad start going crazy, to Andy's point, in ways that any other criminal would probably not be able to do. And he creates such a dizzying array of windows and screens and calls and all these things that I think it lost me a little bit on the stakes. What was at stake? I felt like Chris Pratt lost, or Chris Raven lost the thread of the fact that he was sitting in a death row chair because he started an investigation on chemical theft. And I know it was supposed to be all tied in together, but I never quite believed it because I was so dizzy with Windows. Maybe that would have been better had I actually seen it in 3D IMAX. I don't know. Andy, Steve?
Well, I think that speaks to the world building, and I really do admire what they did with all of that. Like, that's what I really enjoyed about this film, is the way they tied in the screens and the usage and the future technologies and made it so I mean, frighteningly accessible, and how everything can be at arm's length. I never quite figured, he always seemed to be having issues with his typing, like so it just, let's just say it. I mean, I just wanted the AI to just speak it. You don't need to bother typing.
Use your voice.
It just
We've
seems like
reached
sometimes
that.
it's just not doing anything. But I think like those elements were really effective, the way you could see all the different screens and the way that he was interacting with all of it. For me, the parts that I struggled with, as much as I loved the visuals where it did the scene recreations, like it did the one of the crime scene where it showed like all the different bits of evidence everywhere, which was really cool. But the one in the backyard is the one I really struggled with. And you could argue the same thing with the fire, because you're essentially relying on all the cameras to be everywhere. And it made me think of a recent Black Mirror episode, Eulogy, the one with Paul Giamatti, where he's stepping into photos and having these memories, and he's trying to remember the face of this girl who he knew when he dated when he was young and who had passed away. And he walks into the photo and walks around a picture of her that's from, you can see the back of her head, but when you come around the other side, there's no information. It just kind of disappears. And I think what I needed to really buy into, what like the tech was for these scene recreations, is having some spots where things just weren't there, or it was fuzzy at least, because I could have bought in, okay, I get that because the camera panned away and you don't have any accurate information for that section at this particular point in time, things like that. So I think they do I don't know. I liked the work that they did, but I did struggle with it sometimes because I felt like it just somehow pulled like every single person's camera to recreate an entire scene. And I thought that made it harder to buy.
Yeah, that is the stretch in that sequence, and yet not impossible. And that's the thing that's the thing that should be terrifying, is that it is a surveillance state that can reconstruct from everybody's camera a fully realized 3D environment. That's not impossible.
No, they had the bird guy, they had that whole shot there. But Andy, I agree. Those are the parts that really pulled me out of it, because I love the screens and all the access to information. But yeah, putting him in the backyard, putting him in the chair on the highway, putting him in the garage with the fire all around. I thought, what is the purpose for that in terms of the AI and what he's using it to do? Why does it putting him there? I mean, for the backyard, sure, he was trying to see who was there so he could sort of narrow down, suspects. But for the other moments, I thought there's no logical reason for him to have to be there when he's just needs to talk to people. He's not needing to see anything at those locations. So it pulled me out. It just became those sort of like spectacle, because we're now in an action movie piece. But I everything else in that chair, the screens, everything, I love how you can do that in a way that I can follow it. I'm along for the ride. It's logical. I can track the thought. And I thought that was the piece that worked particularly well, was just him going from waking up to just getting to the point where, as Pete says, now he's a detective solving, chemical theft. But that journey that he takes along that period of time, I thought, okay, I bought into those moments along the way of, as he's pulling at those threads from how I don't even remember yesterday, to starting to get a grasp on, okay, something's going on. And I was on board for all of that. Then it became, terrorism and chemical theft and all that. And I didn't care about that movie. But I thought the first part of just piecing together a life from those screen moments worked very well for me.
I think you just said it, Steve. I think you just put words to what I really think the movie lacks, which is constraint. And there was an opportunity to tell a really awesome story about infidelity and this person's struggle with alcoholism without getting into the nonsense factory of terrorism and bombing and all of that. Yeah. I didn't feel like it needed it. If we transition into something that I really love, and I think who maybe, I don't know. I feel like if we ever have an opportunity, Andy, this is a production note, to interview Khalid Motaseb on the show. Cinematographer Khalid Motaseb I think did the yeoman's work on this movie. I would love to see a shot log from this movie. Like if we could just export a clip log from Premiere, holy cow, they captured a lot of material and processed it fascinatingly and created this universe of screens in a way that I think was super inventive. What a joy to be able to work on a movie like this if you're managing pictures. Thoughts on cinematography?
It's really well done, and then there's always constraints with these movies where there has to be a lot of like people walking around with their shooting themselves from below just so you have something to look at, filming their own things when they're looking around not talking to you. There's always going to be problems like that are always a little bit annoying, but to handle so many different types of filming and different types of making it look like different types of cameras, stationary, moving, jumping, all of that, it seems like a really thrilling thing to work on. And I thought the verisimilitude for most of it worked really well for me.
There's a line in the camera work that I think that largely they do a pretty good job, even if I don't always buy like, why does this person have a camera? But I largely like when his wife comes in and sees him drinking in the garage and he's like, why are you filming me? It's like, yeah, why are you filming him? Like, I'm not going to walk in and filming my wife when we're about to have an argument. Like, it just seems so dumb. Anyway, all that aside. Right.
Maybe it's what we've been missing.
I know. Yeah. Post it online, see what people say. But I want to, but the idea is that they largely do a good job of keeping it consistent, I thought, through all of the footage. And I kind of bought, okay, this is somebody's body cam. Okay, there's something here. Like I can see all of that, which compared to the camera work, I think only at the very, well, I mean, honestly, everything within the Mercy courtroom itself, when we're looking at Chris, like everything him related is just a camera so that we can see what's going on. Likewise, once he's finally out of the chair and the finale of the film. And I do think that, to your point, I think the cinematography does a good job of trying to keep the looks separate as far as like filmic for those bits of the film. So I do appreciate that work that they went into to kind of keep that tone separated.
As a nerd, I really appreciated what they did to build a user interface for all these computers that was crisp and clean and kind of a hybrid of Linux and Mac OS, and like it just really felt like a hybrid that could be real, mostly because they were still dealing with files and folders. And I low-key love that. So many interfaces are like pretending to get rid of the fact that we still have files and folders and they're not going anywhere. And it was just like the quotidian approach to a workaday bureaucratic operating system. I really liked that. Maybe nobody else will have any thoughts about the actual design of the files and folders of this movie. But if there was an Academy Award for files and folders, it would go to Mercy.
That's funny.
Ramin Djawadi is back on the score. Did anybody have the score stand out? Score does a lot of work.
I think it's fine. I enjoyed it for what it was. It didn't like it fit the tone of the movie, but it didn't stand out specifically for me.
Same with me.
I think so too. Other than the fact that there was a lot of music. I mean, it was propulsive for the kind of movie that it is, and it was busy. But there were no themes that I'm coming away humming.
You mean you didn't see the little orchestras that were there just off camera in backyards and everywhere? So always had scores for the actual footage of going on at these places.
And all the little orchestras had cameras themselves.
Right, exactly.
So you got a lot of POV. Yeah.
I would like to talk. Can we talk about the acting for a second? I think Rebecca Ferguson is captivating. I love her all the time, and I thought she was really neat. And at times I was like, wait, why is she acting so human in like little like, whoop, did I just catch you? But then I was like, but AI does that. AI pretends to be human. AI says things like, let me think about it. It's like, you don't need to do that. So I thought she was really neat. And to have to tamp down so much and underplay everything in order to be a robot lady, I thought she still was, I would just watch her do that for forever. Whereas unfortunately, Chris Pratt has a pretty shallow bag of tricks at this point. I feel like he's just, I feel like he had a lot of moves before, and just with all the movies he's been making for Netflix or whatever, they just have been sanded down. Like he's got three options. But I thought she was really a lot of fun.
I agree. Andy, go ahead.
And I think she works as the judge. I mean, I think
Mhm.
that plays well. It's not so much an acting performance, but certainly the way the character is written. But Jack was, I think, my biggest problem with the film. This is Chris's current partner, and
Calories.
who I struggle so much with that because, and this goes to like the way that the script was shaped, because again, I feel like I think if you're gonna tell a 90-minute, like this cool concept of doing 90 minutes kind of real time where we're in with you as you have to use all this screen life images to solve your case, you got to do it well. And I don't think that they do. I think that it becomes more plot oriented than character oriented, because Jack's motivation is, I mean, this is a show full of spoilers and we're definitely spoiling this, but Jack's motivation as we come to the end is like so out of nowhere. There's nothing in the script that earned that. Like, why was she like so desperate to prove that it was work? Like, she wasn't even involved in the situation with his partner getting killed the first time that might have I could have bought it more. And so like there's nothing there. So this is one of those stories that I think could have worked better had they actually given us just more story beforehand of getting us to know these characters so that we understood where they were by the time we got into this thing.
But they did say that she was the one that brought in the brother for Mercy the first time.
Yeah, which I mean is a key part of that whole thing. But that's just like that. There's no, that's just a plot point. There's no character element there. And so, and I know you're talking about the actors and the performances, Tommy, but I wanted to bring that up. I don't think Callie Reese has any fault to her performance here, but like, and then it just becomes so obvious. Like, why is she suddenly shooting at the truck? It's like, oh, well, clearly she's part of this. Like, it just, I couldn't, like, it's too obvious of a moment when she decided to just open fire.
I think that is the same sad case for the character Rob, the AA sponsor, who also works there, who Chris Sullivan, I really like Chris Sullivan. No fault of his, apart from the fact that he was given a script that does the same thing to him that it does to Callie Reese. It just renders him another domino in a predictable sort of outcome that didn't need to go that way. It didn't need to go that way. And of course, Annabelle Wallace plays Nicole Raven, who is dead.
Very briefly in the film.
Very briefly.
Briefly in the film, yeah. But is well modeled on the floor in pixels.
With the knife going in and chipping her
and twisting and moving.
Jeez.
Gruesome. All right, it's time. We've reached the end. We need to talk about Letterboxd. Letterboxd.com/thenextreel. That's where we apply all of the stars and the hearts to our reviews. As always, the rules, which are sacrosanct. If you give it stars, you have to take the stars from somewhere else. Nobody pays any attention to those rules. And so here we go. Andy, go ahead.
Well, for those who looked at my Letterboxd review, already know I gave it 1 star. No hearts. I like what the reason it's getting 1 and not like a half star is because I genuinely enjoyed, like, I thought the hook was really interesting, which is what drew me to want to watch this in the first place. And I really like the tech forward visuals that we have here. Like, I genuinely like all of the stuff going on around Chris as we're watching it. It's just, for the rest of it, it's normalizing like this court designed for speed and certainty, but there's no lawyers, and so it's creating this interesting system. But then at the end, it's like, oh, but it's actually the humans are the problem, and the system's actually okay. Like it didn't know what it was trying to say, and so I ended up really frustrated. So that's where I stand. 1 star. No
1
heart.
star. Steve.
I'm still torn. I had to go back to my Letterboxd to see where I rate other things, because this is sort of falling in between space, and I I'm right there with Tommy. I had a lot of fun with this, but I see all of the quibbles and the problems with this. But yeah, if I guess I'm gonna lean more one way, and looking at where I fall on things, I'm gonna end up with 3 stars on this one.
Wow.
I mean, there's something about, like I said, pulpy sci-fi. I love these types of, I mean, well, with this cast, it's a little bit bigger, but like smaller films that like take a big idea and grapple with it and ultimately fail because you just can't translate some of that from the page to the screen. But to take a chance on it and to bring that to the table, I give them credit for. And yeah, there's a lot of things to enjoy about this, and just have fun and not to think too much about it.
Especially about the hand on the doorknob. Tom.
Yes.
So is that a heart too? Then it sounds like.
Yeah, that's a heart too. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I do heart that. Yeah, that was fun.
Tom.
5 stars, Pete. When I came into this, I was a 3. I think I'm going to lower it actually below Steve, just to 2.5, because I think I'm thinking about the rewatchability of this movie in comparison to the other screenlife movies. And I think that the 3D theater experience was so important that it's falling into that Avatar syndrome for me, which is like Avatar. Of course, I'll see it in the theater. When it comes on HBO, I'm never watching these movies again personally, because there's just nothing for me except that huge in-theater spectacle. So I'm going to go ahead and say 2.5, but definitely a heart, because I like screenlife and I want more of them.
Okay. I came in at a position, and then Andy started talking and I lowered my position.
No.
And then Tommy started talking and I raised it again. Steve started talking and I kind of lowered it and then raised it, and it really waffled around Steve. I came back in exactly where I started at 2 stars, no heart. And I think for very much the same reason. There's a lot that I liked about the actual presentation of the movie, but it's such empty calories. And I'm not watching it again. I'm never going to watch it again. And I mean, I guess there's a chance that I'll forget what movie this was, and somebody will say, "Hey, we should put this movie on," and I'll watch it and regret it because I'll remember too
terrible
late.
title. You're like,
Yeah, right.
It's a World War II movie. Like, it could be anything.
Yeah, but I'm going to end up at 2 stars, no heart, and that feels right for me as a reminder of what this was. I spent way too much time on my review. If anything, I need to go back and soften a little bit of my language after this conversation. I may have come in hot, so check Letterboxd later. And so, let me ask you a closing question. Would this movie have been? How would this movie have changed for you if Chris hadn't made it out of the chair?
That's where I was earlier in the movie. I would say that first half, I thought it was going to be the realization that I'm a piece of garbage, and whether or not I can prove it or not, it was going to be on the line, and he was going to end up dead, and it was going to be maybe a realization I should have been a better person, and ended that. But once it became the terrorist movie, I'm like, oh, he's got to live to save the day. But I was hoping for the more character-driven piece of I'm garbage, I should have lived a better life.
What told me it was never going to be that movie is the fact that Chris Pratt was cast, because I guarantee he's not an actor who will be fine getting killed in that sort of capacity in a movie.
No.
I think that's my perspective, is that I wonder what it would be like to live in a universe where Chris Pratt would be willing to take those kinds of swings, and create a movie that gives you all the intensity of replaying one's life by way of screen life, and realizing, oh, I've learned some lessons about myself. I know who I was and who I wasn't. And ultimately, maybe I'm found innocent, but for some reason or another, I'm dead. Or maybe I can't prove beyond a reasonable doubt for the court, but for myself, I understand who I am now, and it's okay, I end up dead. Like those kinds of really hard, like would walk out of the theater and be like, I can't believe they did that to me. I'm absolutely going to watch this movie again. I'm absolutely going to see how they build that case, because it's compelling and interesting and risky. And that is the thing about this movie that just feels kind of sad, is that it's not risky. And so anyway, Tom, do you have any
Yep.
Armchair quarterbacking. No, you don't. You're not into it.
I lost interest once he got out of the chair because I was there for screen life and not the rest of the stuff. But I kind of did like Rebecca Ferguson being able to zap her way around town and be like, I'm going to give you a
now
snap.
I'm on the lobby card.
And suddenly,
and
control the robot, like like the little bomb robot. I'm like, okay, now she's got control of that too.
She's everywhere, but only for 90 minutes at a time.
I would give Rebecca Ferguson control of everything.
All right, y'all. Thank you so much for hanging out. If this conversation sent you down a rabbit hole or reminded you of other films circling the same ideas, we do a lot of that work across the films of the Next Reel family of film podcasts, where we dig into films and filmmakers that built the language this movie is speaking. You can find all of everything we do as part of the Next Reel family of film podcasts at thenextreel.com. If this is your first time here because of this movie, stick around. We only do this once a month, and while sometimes we like to say we're picky on purpose, maybe not this time, but definitely next time, we'll be back next month with Scream. The next number.
7.
Meeting adjourned.
Do you think it would have been funny if every time he wanted to address Rebecca Ferguson, he'd have to say, "Hey, Your Honor," like he would have to say,
like
You're
Siri,
waking up, like you're waking up, like Your Honor, Your Honor, oh, hey, Your Honor, and then she'd be like, "Yes."
Hello, this is Chris Haskell from They Live by Film. For those that don't know us, Adam, Zach, and I, we built a podcast over the last 2 years that's a combination of film discussion from 3 very different perspectives, as well as industry interviews with the leaders in boutique Blu-ray and 4K community. We started with Deaf Crocodile, but over time we've been lucky enough to speak with Arrow Video, Severin, Mondo Macabro, Vinegar Syndrome, Radiance, Indicator, most of the OCN partner labels. It's been a blast. You can find us wherever you podcast, and also actually recently as part of Someone's Favorite Production Podcast Network. We hope to see you online.